I never expected things to go this far. Never thought I'd be sitting here, shaking, my hands barely able to hold this glass of water, wondering if I've completely lost my mind or if everyone else around me has. My name is Ben. I'm 37 years old. I've got a good life, a good job, a quiet little place near Lake Chelan that I bought years ago when the market was kind to people like me. It's not a palace, just a cozy cabin with big windows and enough space to breathe. That place? It's my sanctuary. My peace. And now? My sisters want to turn it into an Airbnb cash machine. Because apparently peace doesn't make money. And money is all that matters anymore. It started innocently enough, like it always does with family. A casual phone call from my eldest sister, Miranda, asking if I ever used the lake house. Then her voice getting a little too chipper when I told her I only go out a few times a year. That's such a waste, Ben, she said. You could be making thousands every month. All that space just sitting there. Then came the pitch. Miranda and our other sister, Kaylee, wanted to manage the property, list it, clean it, handle bookings. All I had to do was sit back and collect a cut. Except I didn't want a cut. I didn't want anything to do with it. I told them no. Flat out. Not interested. That cabin meant something to me. It wasn't just real estate, it was where I went after my divorce, where I nursed a broken heart in front of a fire and taught myself how to be alone without hating it. It was where I brought our dog, Milo, during his last summer and watched him sit by the water for hours, breathing in the air like he knew he didn't have many days left. That place holds my pain, my healing, my solitude. I wasn't about to let it become a weekend party hub for strangers with 5-star reviews and beer coolers. But Miranda and Kaylee didn't hear no, they heard not yet. And what came next proved just how little they respected me or that cabin or anything that didn't benefit them directly. They started showing up. At my house. At my job. Random calls from numbers I didn't know. Texts from people I hadn't spoken to in years, mutual friends, cousins, even an old teacher, suddenly asking, hey, why don't you let your sisters rent out the lake place? Sounds like a smart move. The manipulation was so casual, so rehearsed. Like a PR campaign aimed at guilt-tripping me into submission. I confronted Miranda about it. She didn't even deny it. We're just trying to help you think about your future, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. You're always alone out there. It's not healthy, Ben. You should want to share it with people. Share? Share? This was never about sharing. It was about control. About seeing something I had that they didn't and finding a way to take it. The real turning point, though, the moment I knew something darker was brewing was when I got home one night and noticed something off. The curtain in the guest bedroom had been moved. The upstairs closet door left slightly ajar. I live alone. No one should have been in that house. I checked the back door. The lock had scratch marks near the handle. And when I reviewed the footage from my doorbell camera, nothing. That's because someone had unplugged it. Only one person knew the code to my garage keypad. Kaylee. I'd given it to her years ago when she came to stay for a weekend during her divorce. I called her. She played dumb. Oh, that's weird, she said. Maybe a raccoon or something? A raccoon unplugged my security system? I didn't say anything else. I just hung up. My hands were shaking. That night I didn't sleep. Something in my gut told me I wasn't paranoid. That this wasn't just some misguided family dispute. It was war. A quiet one. A subtle one. But war, nonetheless. And as I sat in my living room watching shadows stretch across the hardwood floors from the porch light, I heard it. A car door shutting. Then footsteps on gravel. Then the unmistakable sound of someone trying to open my side door with a key that no longer worked. And when I flipped on the floodlight and opened the door, standing there were my sister's husbands, Mark and Travis, drunk, cocky, and holding a duffel bag full of cleaning supplies and linens. You weren't supposed to be home, Travis said, blinking hard in the light. Then Mark, smirking like this was all just some big joke, said the words that made my blood turn cold. Well, guess the soft launch didn't go as planned. I didn't say a word. I just stared at them, these two grown men standing on my property, holding Airbnb starter kits like they were about to mop floors and fluff pillows. My pulse was pounding in my ears, and for a few seconds I thought maybe I was dreaming. Maybe I'd fallen asleep on the couch and this was just a weird, rage-filled hallucination. But no. This was real. Mark and Travis, both reeking of beer, standing in front of me like this wasn't the single most insane thing they could have possibly done. Soft launch. I finally said, my voice so calm it scared even me. You broke into my house. Mark laughed like I was the unreasonable one. Come on, man, don't be dramatic. We were just trying to get things ready for tomorrow. First bookings at noon. That's when it hit me. They had already listed the cabin. Without telling me. Without my permission. My sisters had gone ahead and published my address, my home, online for complete strangers to rent. This wasn't just disrespectful. This was criminal. Who gave you a key? I demanded. Travis shrugged. Kaylee said she had a spare from that one time she stayed here. Figured you wouldn't mind. That phrase. Figured you wouldn't mind. Like my boundaries, my ownership were just vague suggestions. I told them both to get off my property immediately. That if they didn't, I'd call the police. They didn't move. Instead, Mark chuckled and said, "You're really going to call the cops on family?" And maybe a year ago that word would have stopped me. But not anymore. I didn't say another word. I just walked inside, locked the door, and dialed 911. They heard me. I made sure of it. They were gone by the time the officers arrived, but I gave names, told them what happened, and showed them the footage from my backup outdoor camera, one my sisters didn't know about. The cops took it seriously, which was honestly surprising. Trespassing. Attempted unlawful entry. I filed a formal report. The responding officer even said, "This isn't just some misunderstanding. If they come back, you call us again." Immediately. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. It wasn't. Because the next day, my phone blew up. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. Kaylee's voice screeching in a recording. "I told you we'd handle everything. You've ruined everything, Ben. Do you know how hard Miranda and I worked to get that listing up? We had bookings. 5 bookings. She was hysterical. Like I destroyed her wedding day. Then Miranda's message, "We were going to give you a cut." A generous one. But I guess you'd rather ruin this for everyone. You always have to be difficult, don't you? Just like when Mom died, when you sold her car without asking us. You never think about how your actions affect other people. That part caught me off guard. Because Miranda knew why I sold the car. She knew it was rotting in the garage and I needed the money to fix the leaking roof before winter. But in that moment, she rewrote history to make me the villain. Just like she always did when things didn't go her way. I thought about ignoring them. Letting it all blow over. But then I got the email. From Airbnb. It was a reservation confirmation in my name. Apparently, one of them had used my identity, my driver's license photo, probably from that old copy Kaylee once scanned for a rental car, and created a full host profile under my account. They hadn't just listed the house, they had committed identity fraud to do it. I was in disbelief. And then came the final punch to the gut. The cabin. I drove out there to make sure everything was okay. I had changed the locks after the break-in, but I still felt uneasy. When I arrived, something was off. The scent of strong bleach. The couch moved slightly. A drawer in the kitchen open. Towels missing from the linen closet. And worst of all, a single pair of muddy footprints leading from the back door to the living room. Someone had been here. Recently. I pulled up my security app and nothing. All cameras had been disconnected. That night, I slept with a baseball bat next to me. The silence that had once brought me peace now felt heavy and invasive. I knew with absolute certainty that this wasn't just about money anymore. My sisters had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. But what happened the next morning? That was the moment everything truly shattered. I woke up to my phone buzzing. It was my neighbor, Susan, who lived 2 doors down from the cabin. "Ben," she said, her voice trembling, "I just thought you should know, there are police at your house in the city. Something about a break-in. And your front door? It's hanging off the hinges." I didn't even ask questions. I just got in my truck and drove like a maniac back to the city, every possible disaster running through my mind. I couldn't shake the image of my house, the one place outside of the cabin that still felt like mine, standing wide open like a corpse with its chest cracked. The moment I turned onto my street, I knew Susan hadn't been exaggerating. My front door wasn't just open, it was shattered, splintered like someone had kicked it in with a steel-toed boot and kept going. 2 cop cars were parked outside. One officer was speaking with a neighbor, the other was standing just inside my foyer, taking photos. I parked, jumped out, and nearly slipped on the gravel as I rushed up the walkway. "Ben Carter?" the officer asked. I nodded. "We tried calling you. Looks like someone broke in, possibly early this morning. You weren't home." I told him I'd been at my lake house. He raised his eyebrows. "Who else has access to your home?" I paused. "Technically no one. Not anymore. But I already knew. Deep down I knew. We did a walkthrough. The damage wasn't just to the front door. My office had been trashed. Papers everywhere. Drawers pulled out and dumped. One of the filing cabinets had been forced open. My bedroom closet had been ransacked and my safe, the one I thought was hidden behind a panel, was gone. Ripped out. My mouth went dry when I realized what had been in it. Birth certificates. Passports. my will, the title to the cabin, and 2 old hard drives from a previous job I kept for backup. Looks like they knew exactly what they were after, the officer said. Nothing else is missing? Electronics, jewelry? I shook my head. All untouched. It wasn't random. It was personal. Surgical. I told the cops who I suspected, even though it made me feel like I was crossing some line I couldn't come back from. But what else could I do? Miranda was in real estate. She knew how deeds worked. And Kaylee had once helped me organize files after my divorce, when I didn't have the energy to do it myself. They knew. I was still talking to the officer when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. Then again. 3 voicemails. I stepped outside and played the first one. It was Kaylee. Ben, I swear we didn't touch your house. I don't know what happened, but this wasn't us. You have to believe me. The second was from Miranda. You're losing it. First the cabin, now this? Maybe you should talk to someone. We're family. We're not the enemy. I didn't even listen to the third. My hands were shaking. I looked around, suddenly aware that the neighbors were watching from behind curtains and car windows. I was that guy now, the one whose family drama made it onto Nextdoor and Whisper networks. That night, I sat in my house, now with temporary locks and a pit in my stomach that wouldn't leave. My mind was spinning. If this really wasn't them, then who the hell broke into my home? But if it was them, if this was just another layer of manipulation, another scheme, then what were they trying to do? That's when I remembered something from months ago. A weird voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. A man asking about available weekends at the cabin. I thought it was a scam and deleted it. But now I wondered how many people out there had already been told that my vacation home was rentable. How deep did this go? I pulled up Airbnb again. My account was suspended, flagged for multiple identity violations. I couldn't even log in. Then I tried VRBO. There it was. A listing. Still active. Same photos from my private folder on my laptop. Same cabin. Except now it said, managed by MK Vacation Stays. MK. Miranda and Kaylee. I clicked on the booking calendar. Every weekend for the next 3 months was filled. Every single one. I stared at the screen, heart pounding in my ears, while rising in my throat. They hadn't just gone behind my back. They'd built a business off of it. I was about to call the cops again when my phone vibrated one more time. This time it was a photo, sent anonymously. It was a picture of the cabin, taken from outside. Lights off, but standing on the porch, facing the camera, barely visible in the darkness, was a man I'd never seen before, wearing gloves, holding something metal in his hand. I stared at the photo for over a minute, frozen, my brain refusing to make sense of it. A man I didn't know, at my cabin, at night, staring straight into the camera like he knew someone would see him. The timestamp on the image was from 2 days ago, which meant it was taken before Mark and Travis had shown up with their duffel bag of linens. Before the cops came. Before everything imploded. My fingers shook as I zoomed in, trying to catch a better glimpse of his face. His build was stocky, mid-40s maybe. Dark jacket. Ball cap. No license plate in the shot. No angle that showed where he came from or where he went. Just a single haunting image of a man who had absolutely no business being there. I forwarded the picture to the detective assigned to the break-in, and then I sat in silence, thinking back on every little thing I'd missed. The odd text Miranda had once sent me asking if I had changed the locks at the cabin yet, completely out of context. Kaylee mentioning a friend who did short-term property cleaning last fall. Even my cousin Neil randomly asking how my Airbnb thing was going at Christmas. All these clues I brushed off as nothing suddenly snapped into place like jagged pieces of a broken bottle. I wasn't just being taken advantage of. I was being used. My sisters weren't just entitled, they were strategic, methodical, and absolutely convinced I was too passive to do anything about it. But now I was angry, and anger made me dangerous. I hired a private investigator that night. A guy recommended by a friend who went through a messy custody battle and said he was quiet but vicious. His name was Ellis, And when I told him everything, he just nodded and said, "I'll start with the cabin, but I'll need access to your accounts. Emails, phone, photos, anything you think they've touched." I gave it all to him. The next day, I started calling lawyers, property law, identity theft, civil claims. I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was going to burn their little side hustle to the ground. But what Ellis found 3 days later knocked the wind out of me. He called me and said, "We need to talk in person." That's never a good sign. We met at a coffee shop an hour later. He pulled out a folder and said, "I found out who the guy in the photo is." I leaned in, heart pounding. His name's Derek. Derek Marston. Ex-con. Fraud. Breaking and entering. Domestic battery. And he's your sister Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. The one she swore she hadn't seen in years. I couldn't speak. I just blinked at him. Ellis continued, "I've got video of him entering the cabin through the back door last week. He's done it before. And I also found listings for your place on 2 different short-term rental forums, ones that don't even vet properties. He's the on-site contact for both." I felt like vomiting. My sisters hadn't just stolen my identity, they had outsourced it. Let someone with a criminal record host strangers in my personal home, while I was across the state thinking I was protecting a piece of peace in my life. Ellis slid another paper toward me. Here's the kicker. One of the accounts is linked to a joint business bank account. MK Rentals, LLC. Registered 6 months ago. Guess whose names are on it? I didn't even need to look. I knew. Miranda, Kaylee, and Derek Marston. My head was spinning. Why would they work with him? I asked. Ellis just shrugged. Cheap labor? Plausible deniability? Or maybe they're just as reckless as they are greedy. Then he added, "One of the bookings from last weekend got canceled because the guests said the place smelled like bleach and mildew, and the guy who met them had a gun on his belt. They filed a complaint with the forum." I printed it out. I took the paper. Read it once, twice, and then I looked up and said the words I never thought I'd say about my own family. "I want to press charges. For everything." Ellis nodded. "Good, because I think they're planning something worse." I found a message exchange in one of the accounts between Kaylee and a guy asking if the place would be clear for the weekend. Her reply said, "Yup, my brother's finally out of the picture." That phrase kept repeating in my head like a warped record stuck on the worst note of a song. My brother's finally out of the picture. I heard it in Kaylee's voice, casual, smug, like she'd finally gotten what she wanted, and the cleanup crew could move in. But I wasn't out of the picture. Not even close. I was staring directly into it now, like someone who finally sees the full painting and realizes it's not a portrait but a crime scene. I asked Ellis if he thought they were planning something physical, something worse than what had already happened. He didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, his eyes sharper than before, and said, "I think you need to stop going to the cabin for a while. Stay in the city, somewhere with cameras and witnesses." That hit me hard. The cabin was the only place that felt safe for years, and now I was being told not to go near it because of my own sisters. I asked if he had more, and that's when he pulled out a second folder. This was harder to find, but worth it. Inside were photocopies of receipts, emails, and screenshots of texts from Miranda's cloud account. She'd been using a separate email address to communicate with short-term renters, cleaners, even a locksmith, one who had changed the locks on the cabin 3 weeks ago. Locks I hadn't even noticed were different because I'd been using the keypad ever since replacing the original after the first break-in. But the codes had been switched. They didn't change them to keep strangers out. They changed them to keep me out. I felt this rising wave of disbelief, like the story I was living in had jumped genres and suddenly I was the main character in some twisted psychological thriller. But it was real. All of it. Miranda had even signed off on a lease agreement with someone who booked the cabin for a 3-week remote work retreat, starting next Friday. 3 weeks. Someone was about to live in my house on my land, with no idea the property wasn't even legally theirs to occupy. I asked Ellis how that was possible, how they could just do all this under my name and not get caught. He just laughed, a bitter, tired laugh, and said, "People get bold when they think you're too polite to stop them." Then he paused. "Or when they think you're too scared to fight back." That stuck with me. Because I had been scared. Scared of drama. Scared of conflict. Scared of being that guy who sues his own family. But what was left of that family now? Sisters who weaponized my kindness. Brothers-in-law who broke into my property like it was some frat prank. A man with a violent record holding a key to my home. And all of it built on this slow, years-long corrosion of respect that turned into rot. I told Ellis to send everything to my attorney. I wanted to file for civil damages, press criminal charges, freeze the business account, subpoena their rental profits, and send cease and desists to every platform still listing my cabin. I was going nuclear. Ellis nodded and said, "Good. Because I think they're about to do something stupid." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every holiday, every childhood photo, every fake smile my sisters ever gave me while they were quietly plotting how to squeeze something else out of me. Around 2 a.m., I got up and checked my security cameras again, both the cabin and the city house. Nothing unusual. No movement. But I still couldn't shake the feeling. Around 4 a.m., just as I was finally starting to drift off, my phone buzzed. One new email. No subject. No sender. Just a file attached. I opened it. It was a video. Shaky, low resolution. Filmed from a phone, maybe through a car window. It showed a woman walking up the gravel driveway of the cabin. A flashlight in her hand. She reached the front door. Tried a code on the keypad. Failed. Tried another. This time, it beeped unlocked. The woman stepped inside. And even in the dark, even with the camera shaking, I knew that walk. I knew that code. I knew that voice when she turned to someone behind the camera and said, "He'll never see this coming." I watched the grainy video again and again, each loop making my heart beat faster, not with fear anymore, but with a kind of steady rage I hadn't felt in years. It was Kaylee. No question. Her voice, her walk, the way she tilted her head when the door unlocked, all of it burned into my memory from years of pretending she hadn't been slowly turning into someone I couldn't trust. Behind the camera, a man chuckled. It was faint, but unmistakable. Derek. The ex-con. The one who was out of her life, according to the last time we'd spoken. And now here they were, sneaking into my cabin at 4 in the morning like it was some low-budget heist movie. Only this wasn't a movie. It was my real life. And I was done letting them write the script. I sent the video to Ellis and my attorney with one message: game on. Within 24 hours, we had enough to take them down. My lawyer filed an emergency court injunction freezing the MK Rentals business account, citing fraud, identity theft, and illegal profit off stolen property. Ellis turned over every piece of digital evidence to the police: emails, texts, login histories, even a Venmo trail that showed renters paying Derek directly. It was enough to get the DA's office interested. But the most satisfying moment? That was when I got the call from the detective. "Mr. Carter," he said, "we've issued a warrant for the arrest of Derek Marston. And your sisters have been subpoenaed for questioning. I'd expect them to be very cooperative soon." I didn't smile. Not really. It wasn't joy I felt. It was vindication. A quiet, icy kind that settles into your bones when you've been gaslit for so long that you start to doubt your own boundaries. And now? I wasn't doubting a thing. A week later, I got a voicemail from Miranda. She was sobbing. Said it was all a misunderstanding. That she didn't know Derek was dangerous. That she only wanted to help me make something out of the cabin. She begged me to drop the charges. Said we could talk. Said family shouldn't fight like this. I didn't call her back. Then Kaylee tried. Hers was angrier. "You're ruining everything, Ben. You've always been selfish. You think that cabin matters more than your family? More than your own blood." And then, like always, she twisted the knife. "Mom would be ashamed of you." That one stung. Because Mom's the only one who ever made me feel like I mattered as much as them. But even she, near the end, had started slipping into that same habit of letting Miranda make the decisions and Kaylee make the messes while I cleaned up in silence. I didn't respond to Kaylee either. I forwarded both voicemails to my attorney. A month passed. The news finally broke. Local sisters face civil suit in vacation property fraud scheme. There were photos: Miranda in her pencil skirt looking utterly shocked, Kaylee hiding behind sunglasses, and Derek being shoved into the back of a police cruiser like the scumbag he is. My phone blew up. Family members I hadn't heard from in years reached out. Some blamed me. Some apologized. Some just wanted the drama details. I ignored them all. The court case is still pending. But I've been told I'll win. The business account is frozen. Their credit's tanking. And Derek? He's facing real jail time. As for me, I changed the locks again. Installed a full new surveillance system inside and out. And last weekend I drove up to the cabin alone. It was quiet. Cold. A little dusty from neglect. But still mine. I lit a fire, sat on the old couch Milo used to sleep on, and breathed for the first time in months. Not because the war was over, but because I'd finally stopped trying to keep the peace with people who were never interested in peace to begin with. I looked out across the lake as the sun dipped behind the hills, and for the first time in a long, long time, I felt like the person staring back at me in the reflection wasn't a coward. Or a doormat. Or a brother begging for approval. Just a man. Standing alone. And completely unapologetically free.